Lawrence Toomajan got involved with Scientology in 1976 at the age of 16 after reading the book Dianetics, the Modern Science of Mental Health. He's here today to tell his story, and it's an interesting one that goes through many ups and downs. I think you're going to want to stick around. He's quite a character. And stick around, especially at the end, for the Mike Tyson story. Let's get started. Good day, everybody. Welcome to our channel, Scientology, Peeling the Onion. My name is Mark Fisher, and I'm here with my co-host, Janice Gillum-Grady. How you doing, Janice?
Good, Mark. Good day, everybody. And this is the new year, so happy New Year. And
Did you notice what I'm wearing?
Your Christmas present from your mother. Your
yeah,
Hawaiian
but you know,
shirt.
how this came about is it's cold. It's cold here. I got the door open for my dog, right? And so I normally wear a Hawaiian shirt, but when it's cold, I wore like a black sweatshirt. And Janice goes, "Where's your Hawaiian shirt? You need a Hawaiian sweatshirt." So that's what we did. We got this one. It says Hawaii. It's about state, and it's purple, and that's why, because it's cold out here again.
Your 93-year-old mother gave it to you.
She's 94.
And that's right. She's now 94. Yeah,
that's right. Well, anyway, we hope everybody had a happy holidays, right, Jan?
Yeah, we do. We had a good holiday. The dogs kept me company, and I had my daughter and my granddaughter over, and I had a bunch of friends over. So it was good.
That's great. That's great.
And I went hiking with my son.
Oh, there you go. That's great. And you see your horse and your dogs and everything else is good, right?
Yes. Yep. I got a great video of Elizabeth carrying the kitty cat. I'll have to give it to you to post on our community page.
Okay, I'll definitely look forward to that, and we'll put that up there. Anyway, today we've got another guest that we haven't interviewed before, and why don't you tell everybody a little bit about him, and then we'll bring him on.
Yeah, our guest got into Scientology through New York, and I'd seen him posting and so forth, and then he's been posting more on the Outer Banks on Facebook, and I started reading his story and what he had to say, and I thought, this would be an interesting fella to interview, and it's no one that either of you have known, so we should have some good questions for him and learn something about someone else who's kind of gone through the whole steps of getting into Scientology back in the 70s. So our guest is Larry Toomajan. I hope I didn't butcher it, Larry.
There he is.
It sounds
Hi,
great.
Larry. Why don't you tell everybody the correct pronunciation so we have it right?
I like the way no one's ever pronounced it like that before. I can't do it. I would normally just say.
Well, Happy New Year to you, and we'll want to get started and let everybody know. How did you get involved in Scientology? You said in the mid '70s, right?
Yeah, the way I got involved in Scientology is I was having a little problems at home, just as a teenage life. I wasn't doing too well in school, and I was having problems communicating with my family. And so one day I found this Dianetics book. I thought, let me read, see if this works, if this helps me. And I said, wow, that's like, no wonder that I'm having these problems. So school just became like oblivious. And the only thing I could think about was, I need to get to here now, to go clear, like immediately. So I decided to go there. Instead of going to school one day, I decided to go to the Church of Scientology in New York.
New York City?
Yeah, I went there all by myself because I was determined. I mean, I knew what I had read.
You're in high school, so how old were you?
Oh, about 16, 15, 16.
Okay.
Yeah, but I knew it was for me. I couldn't deny that. So I went there, at first I wrote to them because I read the Dianetics book. I wrote to them first and somebody wrote back. I gave them my number, somebody called, that kind of exchange.
Right.
And then I went there in person and saw all these people, got all this technical estimate and went home with it. So I wasn't an adult at the time, but I really wanted to go clear.
Mhm.
So my mother wasn't too cool on the fact that they had me there without her knowing. So she went there and she met these OTs that were on staff, during daytime. And then they came to my house on a school day after we went home. And we made it clear, I guess my mother kind of made it clear that that she's not going to make any trouble, but they should ask her first, to bring me to New York. So we were home one day and this registrar showed up at the house and she really, really wanted me to be on course. So she went back to the church and she claims she put $10 in an account under my name.
Uh-huh.
She paid for a course for me to start. And I was so blown out from the thought of, no more reactive mind. I just went and did the course at 16.
So now, who was she that put the $10 down? Your mother or the reg?
No, the reg, Debbie.
The reg.
Oh.
did.
The New York
Okay.
reg, Debbie Kagan at the time. She came all the way from New York just to see. I think she really wanted to see how we lived, who we were, to see if she could get any money. But I appreciate the fact that she did it with a purpose, that she actually put me on the course. She just didn't, I don't know, go about it right, because I was so excited. I just, like the next day, I got $10 from the house and raced back to New York. I was actually on the course at 16, not in school, for about 2-3 days. Then the ethics officer caught me and she took me off and she made me go home. So then the church.
Do you know why? Do you know why they did that?
Yeah, she told me, because we can't take you the way that you are. That was her exact words, because I wasn't an adult yet. And I was just
Oh, okay.
Okay. And you were living where, in New Jersey or someplace?
Yeah, living in New Jersey, in the same city I'm in right now, a few blocks from here. And I was just skipping school to go clear. So
I see.
Okay.
it didn't go over too well with the ethics officer.
1976, yeah. They probably were like, hey, does anybody got any permission for this kid? Hey, he's skipping school. We better get rid of him, because, that's funny.
Well, that goes to show you how desperate they were for people, because didn't anybody there recognize that I was like 5'5", and was there by myself? Not one person thought to ask, is your mother here, your father here? But at the time I didn't care, because that's what I wanted to do.
Right.
So I did that. And then for some reason, I got called back into the church, me, my mother, and my father, to these people, these tours regs from the Sea Org. They wanted to speak to us. This is after the ethics officer, the Sally Allardyce, after she took me off the course. So we went there. At this point in time, my parents were friendly towards Scientology. They thought, well, Larry likes this, he seems to be having a good time. So why, interfere? So we went there and we had like a kind of a meeting, and I agreed that I would wait till I was 18 and then I'd go back and start the course. So that seemed sensible. It gave me a chance to finish high school and then so I did that. But, when I was first started out, I was a day public. Everything in writing for me that was there was for a day public. That's what it was. So this is what I was expecting to be when I came back. This is what I was expecting to remain, So when I turned 18, I just got bored at home. I was finished with high school. I was 18. I says, I'm going to go back to that church and I'm going to start that course again. So I did that. But the instructions were, from the last time when I was there that I was to see Sally Allardyce, the ethics officer, before I went back. So I didn't have a problem with that, because I liked her. She was the first OT I ever met She was OT7 at the time. So I really, you trust the person. So I went back there, and the receptionist says, well, she's not here today. She won't be here for the rest of the day. So I didn't really know what to do, and you really don't know the difference your first day back. What's foundation, what's day? So this Reg came out. She's at your face now. If she's still not in the hole, the Kathy McMurray-Ondrika, she came out.
Oh, Kathy Ondrejka?
You know her?
Yeah.
Kathy worked for me. Kathy worked for me for years when I was in the Sea Org. Yeah, absolutely. I knew her.
Well,
Kathy and Tom Ondrejka. Tom's still in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's in the group. And I'm not always 100% sure, if he and I are on the same page. So I just,
he's an independent Scientologist.
Is he? All right. Well, that's helpful, because at the time that I met him in the church, he wasn't that helpful, or I wasn't sure that he was. But his wife, Kathy, she is like the alternative person that came out to help me. She was a foundation staff member at the time. She wasn't a day staff. Right. And I didn't know the difference between foundation and day. So I says, oh, I'm going to go, with this lady. So we went to her office, and there was a treasurer there. And she's another OT, the Susan Christie Davis. And I didn't really tell them my story. I said, I'm here to see Sally Allardyce, because, I didn't leave, like I came back to do the course that's paid for. So she kind of decided, her and Kathy kind of decided on their own, well, you don't need to see the ethics officer. You're fine. You can just go back on course. But what she did was she took these day paperwork, and all of a sudden now it's foundation. And her and Kathy, they got.
Hold on, Larry. Janice, can you explain for our viewers what is day and what is foundation?
Yeah.
Because this is a key thing, and this is why why they were giving him problems. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah. Day is basically the organization that starts at 8 a.m. or 9 o'clock for courses and goes till 5 o'clock. And then starting in the evening and weekends is foundation. So it's two organizations operating at two different times in the same location.
Yeah, and I have no idea why Hubbard came up with that. Why? Because it's New York. There's the same building and all that, but they would have separate staffs. They would have separate, but they'd use the same space. So if you were a day public person, you could not be on foundation because you belong to day, and vice versa. If you were foundation, you could not belong to day. That was the rules, right, Janice?
Right. And usually what happened is someone's got a regular day job, and so they would then come into Scientology in the evenings and work a foundation job at nighttime to, for the students that also were working during the day and on the weekend. And the same as those who are working foundation hours at night, it basically just so that the org kept going, so that people working at night could study during the day or audit during the day. People who worked during the day could study or audit at nighttime. And that's the difference of foundation. So what would happen is you went in foundation hours, and they saw that you weren't really anybody's except for this one person who was a day staff member. And so they basically ripped off the day
from Scientology's point of view,
and made you a foundation student, so that they got the statistic for you rather than the day organization getting the statistic for you.
Even though the day organization, when I first went in, recorded their statistics for it.
Right.
So double statistics for the same person. But at that point in time, I wasn't as knowledgeable as them. I thought, oh, well, I can just go back onto course. Great. So I was doing the course. I was having a good time. I really was.
What course was it? What course was it? I'm sorry to interrupt.
The communications course.
Communications course. Okay, good.
But for me, this was like something new, to confront someone and actually be understood. And after I did this, people I was just using my TRs. what are you doing? Who are you? Like, what is this? I didn't know. I was surprised because nobody ever did that before. So everything seemed to be going good on the course without my knowing this. And then the real first red flag, aside from what we just talked about, that a more knowledgeable person would know about, was when the supervisor came up to me and started pressuring me. You have to start studying faster. I mean, come on. You have to, like, I says to myself, what is this? I mean, I'm trying to study. So I did the course. I finished the course. I was commuting every day from New Jersey. They invited me to be on staff. So one of them convinced me, the Barbara Benjamin, the Bob Cucurullo, somebody was walking around, I don't remember, and convinced me to join staff, that your auditing and training will be free and you'll go through a million changes. So I joined staff. I started the course in November 77, and then I joined staff like around January. And I didn't mind, doing that. I did staff status 0. I read a whole bunch of books, but then it came down to the fact of staff pay, which was about $4 a week. So that
Right.
barely even covered the train. So I thought,
And that was foundation hours that you were working?
yeah.
Okay.
And
That's evenings and weekends, so people know.
I was supposed to be there, 3:30 for staff study, and then in the evenings, and then on the weekends. So $4 is not even. You're not going to.
Not even a cup of coffee now.
So I started looking for other jobs, a second job. So someone said to me, here, we know one, and it was from the ED at the time, the Raymond Biardi. He had a business, not a good, all right, he had an illegal business. And I didn't think that was a good idea.
Illegal?
Well, he didn't, all the church staff worked there that he could hire, that he could get his hands on.
Oh, he hired them to moonlight basically at his company.
And none of them paid taxes. And if I had gone home and told my parents that, I'm working under the table in New York now, they'd have knocked my brains
Right.
out of my head, say, what's the matter with you, Larry? So I didn't think it was a good idea to work for him, which, as you'll find out, didn't go over too well with him specifically. So I kept looking for, with talking to the staff, to find a job that I could get, taxes taken out of, just for my own peace of mind, for
Right.
my own well-being. So I finally found one with this furniture company, and I went to work for them. So I was working there part-time during the day, and then it was a foundation staff. And everything started going fine until I got fired from the furniture company. Those all Scientologists were working at the furniture company, except the bookkeeper, one or two people. The reason why I got fired is because the year before that, there was a big raid. All these churches of Scientologists got raided, and our company, Lovecraft, was under investigation by the city because there were so many violations. There was something wrong with the elevator, something wrong with the stairs. This was a fire hazard. So the lady that owned the place told me, I want you to go in the whole building. Anything you see that's Scientology, you just take it out of you, put it somewhere. So there was this big org board that fell on me when I was taking it down. I still have the scars. And that's why I was fired. She told me I was PTS. Let me tell you something, Janice.
Yeah, PTS, just so people know, means potential trouble source. And that they're connected to a suppressive person and they injure themselves.
I don't believe I was connected to a suppressive person because my family was helpful. My father
Right.
and my mother went to an event with me in New York when they had this Guardian office event. My mother went. She wanted to go. So
Yeah.
I went with her. I had a good time. But the thing is, Janice, is that this thing fell on me, this injury was so bad that if you were standing there, you probably would have screamed. And
Right.
I didn't even get a Band-Aid, a workman's compensation claim. My supervisor was yelling at me. 3 days later, you're out. Your PTS, goodbye. So I was in New York. That job didn't work out. I wasn't happy on staff. I'm going to tell you the bottom line, which I usually don't tell people. I didn't even really mention it in my book, sort of. But I did something immoral while I was in New York. There was a prostitute about a few blocks from the org, and I went there and had sex. But I didn't get charged for it. So I really didn't feel like I did anything illegal. It was like consensual. But when I got back to the org, I had this huge misconception of what's right, what's wrong. I says to myself, oh, I better tell somebody about this. Like an idiot, Mark. So I told the Has, that, I got fired from Lovecraft. I'm not happy with these job offerings. I've only done so much training. I don't think staff is for me. I said, and in addition to that, I did this. Oh, excuse me, that's different. You have to go to the ethics department. You have to straighten this out. And first of all, if you look at the reality, I wasn't even supposed to be there. I wasn't even their public. So imagine the confusion, in my mind. Now they discovered all about me, the bad person I am. So I went to the ethics officer. You probably know her, Nancy Garcia Levin. I know she's at Int Base. Her husband, Neil Levin, goes to court for the church. And
No, I don't remember her.
She may have come after we left. She may have come after we left. Yeah.
She's Int Base staff. And this can happen. A person can have like a slip. They can have a moment of passion. I never went back there and did that again, but it happened. And,
Right.
at the time I hadn't had sex yet. So to me, this was like a breakthrough, but I shouldn't really have told them about it. I wish, Mark, that I knew better. I wish I knew then what I know now. I shouldn't have told them. So the Has sent me to the ethics officer. She routed me through the Guardian's office that if you want to continue here, this kind of conduct is not permissible. You need to petition the Guardian's office. You need permission to be here. I'm thinking for one sex thing, do they do this with everybody? But I didn't know better. So I wrote something, this story, petition, I didn't know what it was, to the Guardian's office. I did this, I feel like this, I did that. Can you please, overlook it and just let me continue?
Right.
So while I was waiting to hear back from the Guardian's office, I went to work at the mission downtown. So I was working at the org, I was working at the mission, and then I was offered a position in the Guardian office. So
you're talking about the separate Scientology mission, right? That's what you're talking about, separate from the organization. Yeah.
Was that the Geltman mission in West?
No, the Geltman mission was uptown on the west side. This was the Rower mission downtown in the village.
Howie Rower. Okay.
Howard. And, I was friends with Howard throughout all of this. I exchanged letters with him. So the ED, Raymond Biardi, he sent me to the mission. So I was working at the mission, I was working at the org, and then the registrar that came to my house, Debbie, she married someone from the Guardian's office. They asked me to come work for the Guardian's office. They needed a typist. So I had passed all of these things here. I'm working for the GO. I'm thinking, why do I need to ask them for permission? But this is what
to continue training and doing courses, right? And you're 18 years old? You're 18?
18. I just got out of high school, not too long before that. So this is what they wanted me to do. So I did it. And I don't know if people like to hear about Guardian's office activities because
yes, they do.
Because now they're called OSA. I mean, they had me convinced that like we were on a mission from God. They would have me sit at this desk with these headphones on, and I would hear these people talking. And it was my job to write everything he said, she said, verbatim.
Like a transcribe, you were transcribing it. Yeah, got it.
They were having hidden conversations with these people that are supposed to be trying to stop Scientology. And at that
Wait, were these live conversations that you're transcribing, or were they with tapes?
Tapes.
no, they taped it, and
Okay.
then they gave it to me. Larry, could
Okay.
you please type this whole thing up for us? So I typed the whole thing up for them. Something about the Guardian's office, absolutely, I have to mention to you, or my life wouldn't be complete. Because during this period, the summer of 1978, when I was working for the GO, you've heard of that Paula Cooper lady before. I'm sure a lot
Paulette Cooper?
Yes.
Absolutely, yeah.
I know Paulette. Yes.
of you know her personally. And
Yes.
I had never heard of her before. Never heard until I didn't hear of Paulette until the year 2002. So we're talking what these people are doing is going on right under my nose in 1978. I went there to work one day, and there were these, I can still see them. There are these girls sitting around in the lobby, and I had to stop at the top of the stairs, to be respectful. So this lady comes out, and because you know a little bit about Paulette, did you ever see the picture of Paulette when she's leaning up against the wall and her hair's like real big? And it's like a picture of her from the 70s. It's online all over the place. But this is what this lady looked like after I saw the picture, like 20 something years later. I put two and two together. I couldn't do it until then, Mark, until after I had gone online a quarter of a century later. Then I realized what was going on. All these girls were sitting there, and this lady came out. Oh, hi, Paulette, Paulette, oh, Paulette, Paulette. And they're waving to her. And I'm thinking to myself, what's the matter with these girls? Maybe this lady's name is, Paulette or something like that. So I went to sit down at my desk. That was in 1978. Then in 2002, when I first started looking online, that's when I first started looking. I didn't really, I believed everything they said up to a point until that year when the scales kind of tipped. And I realized I was just getting nowhere with them. I started reading about this lady, Paulette Cooper, and how they used this body double to go around New York, and she would impersonate her. She'd, whatever she was going to do, throw a tire iron through a window, or, get on the phone and scream at the embassy. This lady would do that. And then me or you or Mark, who knew Paulette, we thought we saw her. And you call the police, and they'll run Hubbard, and off she is to jail. So I didn't even know that this Paulette thing was going on at this office. But this is the reason why, that's like incredible. Because how could they talk about that right in front of me, under my nose, not even care that if I had known that, I'd have warned her. I'd have told her, these people are sending somebody out of the building to go get you arrested,
Right. Yeah, because they did that bomb threat letter.
Yeah.
They got her fingerprints, and they did some nasty stuff on her.
That's the serious thing. And when I spoke to Paulette about that a while ago, this is even after she was cleared of the bomb threat. The body double was after this. They were still, they
were going after her for years. She was still testifying against Scientology in the early 80s and after that, yeah.
So anybody, like you or Mark, objectively looking at somebody like me working for the Guardian's office, you would probably think, oh, this Larry guy, he's probably in on it. Believe it or not, I absolutely was not. So,
I can believe it. Hold on. I can believe it. I'm sure Janice can too, because, there were people in senior management that, you'd be an like an admin or a secretary and all that, and you're typing away, but you have no idea what the bosses are doing. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
everything's kept compartmentalized so that, not everybody knows what everything that's going on. Right, Janice?
Yeah, it's all based on a need to know basis on if you're
Right.
informed of things. And it's interesting when I wrote my book, and people who were on the ship with me for years were like reading and learning new things because they had no idea, because it was all a need to know. But they were right there. They were like a deck below, have no clue of things that were going on.
Speaking of Janice's book, you can order a copy down below, autographed from Janice. It's the new year. This is book 1. That's L. Ron Hubbard. That's Janice as a waif, 13 years old. If you want to hear the story straight from Janice, you can order the book at our merchandise store down below. Here's book 2. Anyway, just wanted to let everybody know that.
Let's get back to Larry. Thank you.
Had to put the plug in.
I've seen those books, and this is why I like sort of regard you as an authority, because you worked right there for L. Ron Hubbard. How much more Scientology, can you get?
Right.
So, just so you know. And so where was I? Oh, so while I'm waiting to, but then I used to work right next to the Bureau 1 door. The Bureau, I was here typing, and Bureau 1 was like 2 feet away.
Bureau 1, so everybody knows, is the intelligence branch of the Guardian's office.
They're the ones that do the PIs, private investigators, investigations, all that sort of dirty trick stuff was B1.
Dirty tricks is what they did.
Yeah.
And they would just open the door, give me what you typed. And then they would send me, like they sent me someplace. They sent me to the Waldorf one night with these documents, to this guy. And Susan Beecher was working there. And she told me, you don't come back here, just go straight home. I don't know why she said that for, because I could have gone back. It was still foundation hours. The church was still open. So anyway, I'm working at the mission, working for the GO, working for the org, and I'm waiting to hear back on my petition. And I never hear back on my petition. So I'm thinking, oh no. I'm giving you my honest thoughts. These people must think that I'm crazy, So I told the Has, and the ethics officer, Nancy, the people I originally told this experience to, I didn't hear back from the Guardian's office. Well, then you have to submit it a second time. This is what I was told. I said, I'm not doing that. I'm just going to write to L. Ron Hubbard because his word is final. So I wrote to L. Ron Hubbard. And I was still working at the mission, at the GO, and at the org. And a couple of weeks later, I never heard back from him either. So anybody that was enlightened, would think, well, isn't that odd that you didn't hear back from 2 people in a row about the same exact matter? So I got sick and tired of living, apprehensively on staff of what's going to happen to me here. So I wrote to L. Ron Hubbard about the second time. I says, how come you didn't answer me? And from now on, send it to my house. Don't send it to the church. So 10 days later, I get a letter from him. He says, oh, Larry, I sent this back to you weeks ago. He says, I approved this. And he was very concerned. This is the one thing about L. Ron Hubbard that I have an affinity for him. He was very concerned that I didn't get his first letter.
Right.
Oh, I says, so as soon as I got this letter from him, I says, that's it. I just very gingerly stopped working at the GO, stopped working at the org, and I stopped working at the mission. I got a full-time job in a luggage company for a designer on 5th Avenue, and I was happy there. I was making 50 times what I was earning on staff. So everything is going fine. And then I went to the org one time, and there was this guy there, Eric Krakow. You probably have heard of him. He's pretty famous.
I've heard the name, yeah.
He's a Sea Org Scientologist. He said that he went to Los Angeles to the air show, and he did this course, the Hubbard Personal Ethics and Integrity course. He said, and he wrote up all his OWs on his whole life. It took him 4 days, he says, and he's now a very ethical person. I says, bingo. I says, that's what I want to do, because I'm so sick and tired of these church people throwing up to my face, ooh, look what you did. And Janice, Mark, at that point in time, I really felt worried. that these people almost found out these things about me. I didn't know how to respond because I wanted to make sure I got up the bridge. So I says,
Right.
I'm paying for that course. So I sent Asho the money. There was a registrar there, Karen Jensen. I paid for the course, and I sent her my resume, and we made plans. I was going to live there temporarily or for however long, do the course, and then see what happens after that. So
This is in Los Angeles.
this was in Los Angeles. I was working in New York, paying
At
for
Asho.
and
Right.
planning to go to Asho Foundation to do this. So while I'm doing this, Flag writes me, and Flag calls me. This lady at Flag, she says, we have a project that we want to make a certain amount of Class 12 auditors, and we think that you would be ideal for this project. So I was thinking to myself, I had already seen Karen de la Carrière. I had already seen her in New York in person at an event when I was there while this was going on. And I was, just amazed that she was the Class 12 auditor. I was to this day. And so I thought, well, why wouldn't anybody want to do that? So I says, I'll do that. She says, well, you need to go to Los Angeles first, join the Sea Org, complete some basic training, and then we'll send you off to Flag to the Technical Training Corps, or TTC.
Right.
And train you as an auditor. So I thought, that can't be beat. So I gave up this fabulous job I had in New York, thinking, what's more important, luggage or auditing else? I would rather have done that. So I went to...
I would just interject something here. That was an attraction for me too when I was a teenager, joining the Sea Org at first. I ended up in the CMO when I was 18, right? But I went to be in the Technical Training Corps. I was like, oh, you're gonna be trained full time up to Class 12, and then you'll be delivering all this stuff. And guess what? We're gonna pay and cover your food and your room and all that. Just sign this billion-year contract. And that's what I wanted to do too.
Well,
go ahead, Larry.
Only reason I was convinced I was doing the right thing was because it was Scientology that was involved. If it had been somebody that had said to me, well, I'd like you to be manager of my clothing store, I probably never would have agreed. But
Right.
because of this Class 12 project, I thought, okay. So I said something to my boss, Francine. She was a lovely lady. I still think well of her. I explained to her, and she was very sad. I won't be here anymore. I'm going to Los Angeles. I'm, going to pursue something. So I did that. So I went to LA, and I like any Sea Org member, I ate in the galley. I slept in the Hollywood Inn, and I did manual labor every day. And once or twice they sent me to the AO, the Advanced Organization, across the street to the flag.
Right.
Just to sit in the Reg's office. So I was there in LA for a couple of weeks in the Sea Org. I didn't get any pay for one whole month that I was there. Not one penny. I never got a uniform. And I finally got sick and tired of everybody else was on training. Everybody else was getting auditing. I had to actually mop the floor of what is now the CLO, but at that point in time was called the FOLO,
Right.
the Flag Operations Liaison Office. I had to mop the floor with a dirty mop, with a bucket, with no gloves, with just water, no detergent and bleach. So when I was cleaning the floor, you could see, Janice, that all I was doing was smearing the dirt. And the commanding officer started complaining. What's this guy? Like, what's he doing? So
Right.
my supervisor, this Grace Brown girl, I told her, very nicely, I'm getting sick and tired of this crap. She said, okay. She said, here's what you do. You go next door and you use the money that you have on your account. You buy an e-meter and you buy a set of tech volumes because you're going to need those when you get to Flag.
Oh, wow.
So this is after about a month. So I went next door, I went next door. I wasn't an auditor. I wasn't a minister. I wasn't supposed to have an e-meter. I said, I'd like to buy an e-meter and check volumes. Sold. So I brought it back, took it to my berth. What else was I going to do with it? And I'm waiting to go to Flag now to be an auditor. I figured, you know what? I'd never been to Hollywood before. What if I never come back here? I'm going to go roller skating. So I had roller skates. I brought my roller skates with me. So I went roller skating for one night, and then I came back the next day. When I came back, it was like I don't know how to describe it to you, like halt, stop where you are. The guy told me, don't move. There was a guy sitting at the desk. I'm thinking, I didn't get one day off for a month, not one penny. I can't even go roller skating one time. Nobody said to me, Larry, where were you? Larry, are you okay? Are you sick? Did something happen? No, just stop right there. And then he took me physically, escorted me to this Grace Brown's office, who was my supervisor, and she said, you're offloaded. Goodbye. Don't come back here and apply for the C-Work again until you're OT3 and you've completed the Class 8 auditor course. So I'm thinking to myself, that's a lousy deal, So I was thinking, what am I going to do with my e-meter? What am I going to do with my books? So I did the good, the Good Samaritan thing anybody would do. I obviously couldn't carry 300 pounds in books home in my luggage, so I donated them to Grace. Do you know how much money Grace Brown earned, Janice? I saw her pay stub once, $1.50 a week, and she must have worked 75 hours. And you cannot breathe on a dollar.
Right.
Let me ask you, Larry, a couple of things. Quick questions just for me.
Mm-hmm.
Where was the follow? Was this on the Hollywood Inn at the time? Is that where they were located?
No,
or were they
complex.
over at the complex, the big blue?
The Hollywood.
They were at the complex.
The Hollywood Inn is where everybody slept there. No matter which org they were from. There was the air show commanding officer slept there on all different floors. It's on Hollywood Boulevard.
Okay, so physically working, you were at the what we called the complex, the big blue Cedar-Sinai Hospital, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to get visual.
Larry, I used to roller skate up and down Catalina. When I was there in 1980, I had roller skates. I remember messing up one of my fingers by roller skating into a parked car.
Oh. No, the Hollywood Inn, this is for birthing.
No, that's fine. I just asked because we're contemporaries for this time period. I know the spaces you're talking about because I was at the Hollywood Inn for a while, and then so I just wanted to get a visual mentally of where you were at. Well, so you skated in, and they were like, "You're out of here," and they're getting rid of you. Now she must have been a Sea Org member though, right? This Grace Brown.
She was, because when I went to Flag a few years later, I saw her, and she was like trying to act silent, like she didn't recognize any of this. How can you authorize to sell somebody on the public street an e-meter and not recognize you did anything wrong? When I got home from the Sea Org, I actually called them to talk about the e-meter. They sent me a free set of cans, complimentary set of cans. Didn't even ask me, what auditor course are you on now? How are you using it? Which is like a very bad thing, whether a person's a Scientologist or not. I mean, since when you buy it, you just walk into the church and buy e-meter and nobody knows anything. And that was, and they made me feel guilty, like I did something wrong. My Sea Org supervisor told me, if you want to be an auditor, you have to get this e-meter. Plus, when I was living at the Hollywood Inn, there was no transportation between the complex and where we were living.
Yeah, so that was a ways away.
I worked at the Big Blue up the street, and then I lived like a mile or two away. You know where it is, on the Hollywood Boulevard. I had to arrange for my own transportation. Sometimes I walked, sometimes one of the staff members,
A
Chuck
long walk.
Chuck Williams, would take me. It was a very unfair treatment of me, considering it was my belief, it was my intention that I was going to go home in a few years, maybe on leave, and tell my parents I'm a class 12 auditor, and see what they thought. But that
Right.
so I went back to New Jersey, and I was very depressed. Now I have a $100,000 Sea Org qualifications program. I says, let me try the Flagland base. I'll try that, see how that works. In the meantime, I had my petition from L. Ron Hubbard, so I just didn't want to listen to what the people in New York had to say to me anymore. After stealing me like that, and after misprogramming me, or whatever you call it, that it is that they were doing, I just didn't want to be bothered with that. So I went to see the flag service consultant. I posted something about this lady, this flag service consultant, to the Outer Banks, because she really caused more harm than you could ever imagine, Janice. She just I went there, hello, I'm Larry, and I just came from LA, and I need to get back into the Sea Org. I have to do this program. It has to come out right. And
Right.
I'm explaining all of this to her. She's just sitting there, twiddling her thumbs. And then she tells me, didn't ask me for any money, didn't ask me, anything about me. She tells me, well, the weather down there is still warm. And then I'm thinking, what's going to happen next? She says, look, you've got a problem. Because I don't have time for this, okay? So it was late at night, Janice. I came all the way from New Jersey. And, I said, I can come back. Let me come back later. Yeah, you need to leave. So
Hold on, was she in Clearwater or was she in New York?
she was in New York from Clearwater.
Flags.
Okay, what was her name?
Kitty Georges Khan. She was supposed to be
Kitty Khan?
Kitty Georges. Yeah.
Kitty Georges. She has two last names, Kitty Georges and then Khan.
Yeah, I don't know that name. Anyway.
Well, she's been around a while because
No, I believe you. I just wanted to know.
Yeah, I've heard the name. Yeah.
Because what she did is she sat there and she did every imaginable thing except take my money and open an account so that I could have a real purpose why I went there to accomplish anything. So I didn't even get her name. She didn't even tell me her name. I didn't know her name. About a year later, the first Ned for OTs, including Howard Rower and his wife Mary, the people that got their knots, the first people in New York, they came back from Flag. Helen Geltman was there, and Amanda Ambrose. They had a big event to share their wins. And this Kitty, this FS Flag Service consultant, she was the host of the event. So I was in the audience because, I got along well with Amanda, and I helped set up her stage and everything for her performance. I was sitting in the audience, and one of the people asked her, what's your name? And, where are you on the grade chart? So she told the guy. And when she told him, as stupid as this may sound, I says, oh, that's what her name is. Like a year after she allegedly regged me.
Right.
Yeah. So I was trying to figure out how I was going to be a Scientologist without any cooperation from the church, and I have an e-meter. So, if anybody could put themselves in my situation and try to figure out who you're doing this with, it would have been helpful. So I just, I couldn't make it go right. No matter how I tried, I couldn't make it go right, but I kept a positive attitude,
Right.
This is going to wind me up in the Sea Org one day. One day, all of a sudden, out of the blue, I just, I got this idea. So I'm going to go to Flag because that's the best place in the world. You go there, you go right up the bridge. I took all my money, took all my clothes, went to Florida, got a job, got a place to live, got my family to help me, and I went to Flag. When I first went to the Flag land base, I don't know if you've ever been there before, but I was there I lived in Clearwater for 3 years. And when I first went there, it was very quiet. It was like you could hear a pin drop a mile away. And I went into the registrar's office because that's where the receptionist sent me. She said, I told her, I just got here. She says, well, you need to go, to the reg's office. So I went there, and the first person I see is this flag service consultant from New York, this Kitty lady.
Kitty.
That 8 years earlier.
Wow.
It started to occur to me a little bit like, what is she doing there? And I have all these difficulties. And 8 years later, here I am to pay her for these services.
Right.
So I bought some training. I got a small amount of auditing, but not probably the kind that you have had. Just like from an intern that was
right.
looking to make statistics. That's about the extent of it. And I was at Flag for a couple of months. I was volunteering. I had my own money, had my own place. I was volunteering my time to help them. And they gave me a book. They gave me, because their letters out were like out the roof. They had like 1,000 letters out per week. It was the highest stat since they were ever open. And so because I helped write all the letters, they gave me a book as like a complimentary gift, which I didn't really put to use. It was the Hubbard Management Series, which is really, it's not of much use to you unless you have all the surrounding information.
Right.
But I kept it.
Yeah, it's the advanced administration technology.
So then I was at Flag, and then they tried to explain to me, the ethics officer at Flag, she called me, into her office. And she said, well, we're sorry that happened. That shouldn't happen. She says, but this is what happens at the outer orgs. That's what happens sometimes. There's no declares on you. There's no ethics orders on you. She said, you just go back to your course. So I'm thinking, that's great, that I'm welcome at Flag, but I just spent 8 years, knocking my brains out of my head, trying to petition for something I didn't need to, trying to join the Sea Org, all these things.
Yeah.
Make sense of my e-meter. So I went to the registrar's office, and they were very apologetic. Oh, well, we won't talk about it anymore. That's what happens sometimes. Janice, I didn't feel like as though that was good enough, because now they wanted me to pay them for the problems that one of their own people sitting there caused. And this lady, undetected, she has no idea why 8 years earlier she didn't open an account for me and take my money. Excuse me.
Yeah, I'm just surprised that they didn't try and grab your money faster.
Well, I bought a few courses. I did some training. Nothing that you need to sign your life over for, but just to keep me there long enough so I could get my questions answered, because I was suspicious of them. I went there because of what L. Ron Hubbard said the reputation of the place was, but I was suspicious of them. And then
because usually they would have wanted to make you a statistic so that Thursday 2:00 they've got you on course, or they've got you in session, or they've got your money. That's usually how they operate.
Except they didn't do that with me. I was like, I heard myself referred to by this registrar. She referred to me as like a joke to a famous celebrity Scientologist that I got along with like very well, that I was easy to communicate with her. Like I'm talking to you, she would tell, people that I was a joke. So I wasn't antagonistic to them at the time.
Yeah.
I'm not really antagonistic to them now, but I wasn't really I shouldn't say antagonistic. I should say I was listening to them and I was trusting them. And then it reached the point where the antagonism started, because this registrar actually started the trouble, because she couldn't explain how she overlooked opening an account for me 8 years before. So she started saying things about me out loud. She's afraid of me. She would point me out to people. This guy, he's on his way to a security check. There's something the matter with him. And she would go across the street by the Fort Harrison doors. If you've ever been there, there was the Gray Moss Inn across the street. I would, she'd start pointing me out to people. And then this case supervisor joined in with her. This Class 9 CS Mark Campbell. He started in with the same thing, that who do I think I am, going in there and deciding what's in my best interest. So it was reaching the point where I just went there. I told them I want my money back. I said, that's it. I'm not even going to ask you for advice anymore because you just was no good. So they sent me to the security booth to get a refund routing form. I didn't fill it out because it said within 30 days I could get a refund. I still don't know what the real policy is on refunds, because if it's 30 days, if it's 90 days, if it's a year, but I just let them keep it, and that's it. So I was working in town. I didn't have a bad reputation. I stayed in Clearwater for 3 years. I just tried to avoid them. I had like 1 or 2 run-ins with Scientologists. I had a friend who owned a restaurant, a Spanish restaurant, and I worked there, and I would go there and eat. Next door was a Scientology place, and I would go there and eat sometimes because they served breakfast, and the Chateau Madrid only served dinner.
Right.
And there were Scientologists in there. They would talk about me, tell me I'm not welcome. Oh, that's Lawrence. And then one of them actually told me to get out. Don't come back in this restaurant anymore. And the waitress, who he interrupted to tell me that, she lived next door to me. She was this girl, Christine, I really liked. I was like really good friends with. There was an altercation, okay? The guy threw me out of the restaurant, Mark, but I says to myself, they don't want me here. I'm not welcome here. I'll leave. Pay my bill and go. That's it.
Right.
A couple of weeks later, I had to walk past the place, and the owner was standing out in front of the restaurant. He was talking to 2 people. I don't know who they were. And I was coming up to him. He's like looking at me. As I got close, he actually turned around, took his finger, pushed it into my chest and shoved me back, called me a punk, and wants to know why I don't like Scientologists. And that was the last straw, Janice. I was like, it was summer. I was in my shorts. I was so pissed off. I just Mike Tyson this guy.
Right. Well, the old Mike Tyson or the recent Mike Tyson?
The original Mike.
The original Mike Tyson. Okay. So you whammed him.
Yeah, because I just felt like it wasn't my intention to walk past the restaurant and smack him in the face.
Yeah.
Question what his motives are for talking to these 2 people. So, there was no problems with the police or anything like that, but this church, somebody did send the police to my house and said that they had received reports that I was assaulting and harassing Scientologists.
Oh, you were the one.
Yeah, it was me. I told the officer, I'm not lying, I didn't do that. And he believed me and he left.
I was going to let me add a little context here for our viewers who have never been in Scientology. If you request a refund or a repayment from Scientology, that form may have said 30 days. No, it's drag it out as long as possible, because the idea is that you never pay back that refund or repayment. That's right. That's their policy. They slow walk the whole thing. And then the fact that Lawrence actually asked for a refund or repayment, oh my God, he's now persona non grata. This guy is an SP. This guy is somebody you cannot communicate with or be with around because he wants his money back. He needs to be fair gamed. That's the viewpoint of Scientologists and the Church of Scientology towards people who ask for their money back. So that's how they treat people. Anyway, I just wanted to add that in there because that kind of explains a little bit as to why they were doing that. And it's just crazy. If you want your money back, you should get your money back,
If you're entitled to it, yeah. And believe me, I felt like I was, because where did I wind up doing all these things with that we're supposed to advertise to people, look,
Yeah.
we accomplished together in Scientology, nothing but ridiculous activities. So the amazing thing is how word that I asked for a refund got out that fast. I mean, it like spread across town, at least in this restaurant. They would
Yeah.
sit in front of me and stare at me. I mean, Mark, I'm just talking about having a cup of coffee and browsing through the Clearwater Sun. I'm a suspect, One time I was sitting across the street from Fort Harrison. I was reading a book, and I was drinking a cup of coffee in front of the Gray Moss Inn, and I looked up for a moment, and there was a police officer, standing across the street. He looked at me, just for a moment, but what he was focusing on was the Scientologist over by the garage who had called him. Look, this guy came back. I mean, for the experiences that I've had in Scientology, shouldn't they have said they were sorry? Really apologized? It was my time and money that I never saw again. So
Exactly.
experiences like that were all the time. One evening, 2 Sea Org members followed me home, and I was really scared because it was dark, it was quiet, it was in Florida, you could hear the crickets. And I went into the house like real fast and locked the door, and whoever it was pulled up in the driveway, got out and banged on the door. I just was in the house frozen, just scared, and they drove off. So it wasn't a friendly experience.
Oh.
But
Hey, go ahead, Larry.
The thing that amazes me is that when I lived in New Jersey, I would get all these letters from the Church of Scientology each week, 20 mailings. Come to Flag for Labor Day.
Yeah.
Celebrate Thanksgiving. Have you seen this new e-meter? Buy this book. And people would come to my house. Scientologists like the registrar would come to my house. When I lived up the street from Flag, this is the biggest Church of Scientology in the world. You could see the Fort Harrison from near the front of my house. Nobody ever called or wrote me or visited me. Nothing. The people next door were OTs.
Right.
I'm not saying this to be insulting.
No, I was just going to say the reason it's Hubbard policy that once you are a book, you just have to buy a book. Okay. They have your name and address. You're going to get letters and mailings for the rest of time until you request they take it off. And even that is hard to do. And it's because of Hubbard's policy. Yeah. And the reason they send out so many letters and so many mailings is because his policy is outflow equals inflow. The more you outflow, the more people are going to be coming back in. And so that's their think about this. And that's why they do it. And that's why people hate getting mailings from Scientology, because they never, ever end. I don't know if they still go on now, but they never end.
The way to get them to end is they send a lot of those U.S. postage where the receiver pays for the bulk mail coming back. Yeah. And so people have taken those envelopes and piled them up or even gotten boxes and returned the stuff with rocks in the boxes so that when Scientology gets it back, they have to pay the postage on it.
Dirty tricks. It's a P1 operation. Hey, listen, Larry, we're reached the end of our hour here, okay? And I think this is a good point to stop, and we'll have you on again if you've got more stories you want to tell. These were fascinating to me. I don't know about you, Janice, but I never heard such things, you know what I mean? And then I think it's great because it allows us to explain people like why you get so much mail or, why it is that you're not getting your money back. You know what I mean? It's just, it's nice because we'd never talked before just doing this interview. So this has been really good.
To be honest with you, I was afraid to throw these mailings away. I don't know if other people ever did that. I would think something bad would happen to me if I threw this Source magazine in the garbage. So I would keep them and imagine, It was a good thing. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Do you still have them?
Oh, no. Long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now you're in big trouble. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Larry, we're gonna end off here. Okay, so we want to thank you for being here on the show with us, and we'll have you back for sure. We want to remind people, please subscribe to our channel, hit that like button, hit the notification button, and also if you have any questions or comments, please ask down below. If you've got questions for Larry, ask in the comments. We will ask them. We will ask them to him and on the next show or whatever. And we definitely appreciate the feedback. So please, Janice reads all the comments. I do too. If you'd like to support our channel, you can buy us a coffee. There's a link in the description of the video, and it helps us to put out more of these videos. So we just wanted to mention that. And then also, Janice's books, like I mentioned, are available down below. Commoner's Messenger Book 1 and Commoner's Messenger Book 2. Just go down there, click on them. You can get an autographed copy. She'll personalize it and send it out to you. And it's not that expensive. I think they were like $28 or something like that. I know some people sell books for much more than that. But if you really want to get the insight about working with L. Ron Hubbard, there's no better person than Janice. Anyway, is it Larry or Janice, anything else you guys would like to say before we end off this show?
No, I had a very good time.
Good.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
I had forgotten about my roller skating on Catalina, so at least I know someone else used to roller skate there.
It's a fun activity that normally you wouldn't get offloaded, or your boss wouldn't fire you for,
No, particularly in Southern California with the beautiful weather. And this was the late 70s, right? That was when roller disco and everybody was roller skating,
Well, I was roller skating on Catalina in 1980.
Okay, but it's the late 70s, early 80s, yeah.
Yeah, I was roller skating in Clearwater in 78, and I did get in trouble for that.
Did you?
That's another story. Oh, yeah. Ronnie Miscavige's older brother, I was there on project. He and I used to go out at nighttime and go roller skating. And I got in trouble because I was on project, and there I was going off and having a good time. It's like 9, 10 o'clock at night. Everybody was, off.
Yeah.
But I got in trouble for it.
What do you mean on project?
Like a mission, like she was doing a special project. Yeah.
I was located in California, and I was sent on a project to Clearwater to find executives. So I was going through files and stuff during the day, and then in the evening, like around 9 o'clock, Ronnie and I would go off and go roller skating.
Did Ronnie get in trouble?
No, he's the one because he lived there, but he mentioned it. I guess he wrote a letter to his brother Miscavige, David, and mentioned how Ronnie and I were going off roller skating, and so Miscavige mentions it to Hubbard, and then it's like, get Janice into cramming for going roller skating while she's on project. I should just, anytime I should be putting it into the project. So
that's Scientology for you. It's a reporting society. Anyway, before we go, I just want to say, we hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you again soon. Until next time, everybody. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.